A Boy Asks a Question of a Lady by Djuna Barnes. The days had been very warm and quick. It was fall now, and everything was drawing to a close. It had been a bad but somewhat pleasant year. A great number of people had been disillusioned and were not seen hurrying from one place to another, as is customary with those of undisturbed habit. They went slowly, and it was said that winter, with its snow and frost, would be most welcome. Carmen Latosca was in the habit of riding at a swift gallop down the lane and into the copse beyond. She leaned ever so little in her saddle as she went under the boughs. The plume of her hat bent and swung smartly back into place as she rounded the curve. Her horse was a clear cascade of white. The shining forelock, the soft, descending plane of the frontal bone, melted into a taut nostril. And where Carmen Latosca broke the living line of its back with her own, the spine flowed beneath her as deftly as water, and quivered into massive, alert haunches, which in turn socketed in velvet a foaming length of tail. Carmen Latosca rode well. She let more than usual of her pelvis drop into the saddle. Upon the reins she kept gloved hands in a grip that was consciously lacking in direction. Carmen Latosca was an actress. She had played in Fife and Fiddle and Drums of the King. She took parts suggesting a love of danger and intrigue. She was always handsomely gloved and shod, and her dresses were widely copied. She had been in stock, and in the beginning had sung in opera. She had been the queen in Aida, and had played a boy's part in vaudeville. Now she was resting. She was not the kind of woman who usually came to this quiet country town, snuggled, as they say, among the foothills. The boy who kept the general store said she was stunning. Little children ran backwards ahead of her, crying provokingly, "Red lips! Red lips!" But no one really knew her. She had appeared in the spring of the year with a manservant and a maid. For 2 days she had been at the windows hanging curtains. When they were all hung, no one saw her for some time. Then she bought a white horse and rode it. And after that she always rode on the white horse, though she had 6 or 7 others before the fall came. Usually she rode alone. Now and again a gentleman with a birthmark twisting his face into an unwilling irony rode beside her. There was a goat path in the underbrush, and here 2 boys sometimes came and lay, and talked of her, and waited for her to pass, riding that smart way on the white mare. These boys were Brant and Bailey Wilson, a farmer's sons. Sometimes couples, going berrying by the mountain road, came near enough to hear her laughing behind the casement. Sometimes she walked, descending the hill carefully, avoiding the melon plants, talking brightly to a young man, but paying little attention to the effect of her words, not through vanity, but simply through lack of interest in the effect itself. There was a great deal of gossip about her, of course. She did not court mystery, but it was all about her. People said that she was not exactly beautiful, neither was she ugly. Her face held the elements of both in perfect control. She was brutally chic. A lean, tall woman of the village who had come from London said Carmen Latosca's back was like the Queen's. That was probably an exaggeration. Carmen Latosca breakfasted in bed and late. She dusted her arms with talc, and she languidly settled into a light lace peignoir. She had tea and rolls, and the bed stood between 2 unvarnished cherry-wood ovals, in which were imprisoned 2 engravings of officials of the Tower of London in its bloodiest hour. The double windows faced the orchard. She turned her back to the orchard and its falling apples, and read St. Francis, or the morning paper, which was, by the time she received it, a day or 2 old. The room was bare and gray and rustic, and in this Carmen Latosca and her bed made a strange contrast. She liked to think of it, unless she had other things on her mind. If the morning was chilly, she had a quilted jacket, and if it was raining, she had the shades raised that she might watch the rain falling a long way. Early in the morning the boy chose, it had been raining, but about 11 it had stopped and the sun was trying to come out. Carmen Latosca could smell how wet everything was. The boy was Brant Wilson, 14. He had done rather well at the high school of the nearest large town. He was short, and his head was large, and his face already a little prematurely softened by melancholy. He was splashed with mud, and his red necktie stuck out ridiculously at the top of a vest that was too large for his small, shyly muscular chest. He stood before her on the rug, his hat in his hand. Carmen Latosca, with a single movement, rolled over in bed. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" "I am Brant Wilson. I came through the window. It was very easy." "Well," she said, "what is it?" The child hesitated, and with a look of distress managed to say, "I have a brother." Carmen Latosca pushed away the paper and regarded him with amusement and a little amazement. "He is 2 years older than I am, and there's something I don't understand, and you know everything." "Who said so?" "The neighbors, my father, my mother, my sister, the schoolmaster, the postman. That will do." "You are a woman of the world." The childish sound of his voice became terribly apparent. "My brother is where no one understands. My sister said, 'I don't like Bailey any more. He has lost that cunning little light in his eyes.' And I said, 'It's still there when you give him something he likes, and he is untying it with his head bent down.' How do you come to think of all of this?" Once the sun was shining, and we had been lying out on the bank with our arms under our heads, and he confessed, the child faltered, then looking at her directly and fixedly said, "Bailey cried when he knew it was over." "What was over?" "I asked him, and he answered, 'I am a man now.' Shall I cry too when I know that? What is it all about?" Carmen Latosca rose on her elbow and looked at him with suffused eyes, as if she had been crying, but it was all an illusion. "How many of you are there?" "3, a married brother." "And how old is he?" 24. He cried once too, but differently, about his sweetheart. She died, you know, and when they told him, he said, crying out, 'I could have saved her.' We asked him how, but he would not tell us. But he told Mother. He said, 'I would have said I love you.'" "Is there such a power?" Carmen Latosca lay on her back, her hands beside her. "That was innocence. We are all waiting for the day when people shall learn of our innocence all over again," she said brightly. "And is that suffering?" "Yes, a special kind, for everyone," she said gravely. "But not a personal torment. You are not to believe in that. Suffering is all alike, yours, mine, everybody's. All these distinctions and what people say about them is nonsense. Suffering is all the same everywhere, for every one." She suddenly rose up in bed and said softly, "Now you don't want to talk to me any more?" He moved his finger on the footboard of the bed. "I'm sorry," she said hastily, covered with confusion. "It's my indolence that does it." "What?" he asked timidly. "Embarrasses you." "It's all right. Now, see here," she continued. "Do you ever think of animals?" "Why? Do you?" "I don't know. I notice them." "Capital!" she cried, clapping her hands. "That's what I wanted to know. Well then, what would all this, you and I and your great trouble mean to them? I don't know what you mean. Your questions, my answers, nothing. He colored and looked down. What does it mean? He repeated, and as he said it, he could not remember what he had come for, or what he had said, and while she was answering, he tried desperately to re-establish himself. He said, "And you do not know what I must go through before I feel like Bailey? A little evil day by day, that makes everything grow." "Yes, that is what I wanted to know," he said. "Listen, then. It's all that makes the difference between a gentleman and a fool. Never do evil to good people. They always forgive it, and that is nasty. But what about all these things that people talk of and I do not understand? The simple story, simply told by simple people. That, in the end, is all you will listen to. And I'm not to try to make anything out of all this?" "No," she said, "nothing at all. Leave it alone." "And not to try to understand what made him cry? Just as it is. The calf is born, she lies in the sun, she waits for the end. That is dignity. But sometimes I'm unhappy." "In the end, you will know you know nothing. That will be the death of you." Brant stood still, though she had taken up her paper. "Just that?" "Come here," she said, and he came quickly. She put her hand out with a gentle laugh and touched him. "There, that's all." He went away then. End of A Boy Asks a Question of a Lady by Djuna Barnes.